The stars had never seemed so close. Captain Marcus Vale stood on the bridge of the ESS Discovery, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace fade away. Through the large windows, he could see something that no human had ever seen before. The capital world of the Galactic Federation. Nexus Prime hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered in cities that sparkled with lights from 100 different worlds. "Sir, we're getting a message," said Lieutenant Torres from her station. "They're giving us permission to dock." Marcus nodded slowly. After 300 years of looking up at the stars and wondering if anyone was out there, humanity finally had their answer. Not only were they not alone, but they were being invited to join something bigger than they had ever imagined. The year was 2387, and it had taken humanity this long to crack the secret of faster-than-light travel. While Earth's scientists had been working on warp drives and quantum engines, the rest of the galaxy had been talking to each other for thousands of years. "Take us in slowly," Marcus ordered. "And remember, we're representing all of humanity here." The Discovery moved toward the massive space station that orbited Nexus Prime. As they got closer, Marcus could see ships of every shape and size. Some looked like they were made of crystal, others seemed to glow with their own light. A few appeared to be made of living metal that shifted and changed as he watched. "Captain, look at that one," Torres whispered, pointing to a ship that was at least 10 times the size of their own vessel. It was completely black, except for patterns of blue light that moved across its surface like flowing water. Marcus had read the files. That was probably a Kalari ship. The Kalari were one of the 3 most powerful races in the Federation. They thought as one mind, sharing thoughts across their entire species. The idea made Marcus uncomfortable, but he knew they had to be respectful. The docking process took 2 hours. When it was finally complete, Marcus straightened his uniform and walked to the airlock. Behind him came Dr. Lisa Park, humanity's best xenobiologist, and Commander Jake Stone, their military advisor. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The first thing that hit Marcus was the smell, like flowers and ozone mixed together. The second thing was the sight of the 3 beings waiting for them. The tallest one looked like it was made of living crystal. Its body was clear like glass, but with veins of silver light running through it. This had to be one of the Vithani, the oldest race in the Federation. It moved with slow, careful steps, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans of Earth," it said. "I am Council Member Athan of the Vithani. We have been waiting to meet you." Next to Athan stood something that looked like a person-shaped cloud of golden light. The Luminari were beings of pure energy, and this one flickered and pulsed as it spoke. "I am Radiance of Stars," it said in a voice like music. "The Luminari greet you." The third being was the most surprising. It looked almost human except for the blue-gray skin and the extra set of arms. Its face was kind, with large dark eyes that seemed to see everything. "And I am Ambassador Kale of the Helix Union," it said with a smile. "Don't worry, we know this is a lot to take in. Your first time meeting other species is always overwhelming." Marcus stepped forward and tried to keep his voice steady. "I'm Captain Marcus Vale of the Earth Space Service. This is Dr. Park and Commander Stone. We're honored to be here." Athan's crystal body made a soft humming sound. "Your species is young, but that is not unusual. Many races find us when they are ready to join the greater community." "How many races are there?" Dr. Park asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. "In the Federation?" "Over 200, Radiance of Stars replied. "Some are ancient like the Vithani, who have been traveling the stars for 50,000 of your years. Others are newer like the Helix Union, who joined us only 3,000 years ago." 3,000 years was considered new. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Ambassador Kale seemed to notice his discomfort. "Please don't be intimidated. Everyone starts somewhere. The important thing is that you're here now, and you want to learn." They were led through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered in symbols and writing from dozens of different languages. Other beings walked past them, some tall and thin, others short and round, a few that seemed to float rather than walk. "This is incredible," Dr. Park whispered. "The diversity of life forms." "Indeed," Ethan agreed. "The Federation celebrates this diversity. We have learned that different species bring different strengths. The Vithani are good at long-term planning. The Luminari understand energy and physics better than anyone. The Kalari are excellent at organizing and managing complex systems." "What about humans?" Commander Stone asked. "What do we bring?" There was a pause. The three aliens exchanged glances, or what passed for glances among beings so different from each other. "That remains to be seen," Radiance of Stars said finally. "Your species is unique. We have studied your history, your culture, your technology. You are both creative and destructive, peaceful and violent. It is, puzzling." Marcus felt his heart sink. "We've had our problems, yes, but we're trying to be better." "Of course," Kale said quickly. "All species have difficult periods in their development. The important thing is that you've survived them and are here now." They entered a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked the worlds of the Federation. Earth was a tiny dot near the edge, recently added to the display. "This is where the Council meets," Ethan explained. "Representatives from all member species gather here to discuss issues that affect the galaxy." "It's beautiful," Dr. Park said, staring up at the star map. "It represents thousands of years of cooperation and peace," Radiance of Stars said with pride. "Wars between species ended long ago. We have learned to settle our differences through discussion and compromise." Marcus felt a weight on his shoulders. Humanity had only recently ended its last major war. The scars were still fresh. The weapons still existed. How could they fit into a galaxy that had achieved such peace? "There is something else," Ethan said, its voice becoming more serious. "The reason your arrival is so timely. We have a problem." The star map changed, zooming in on a section of the galaxy's outer edge. Several points of light were flashing. "Red, the Devourers," Kale said grimly. "Machines left over from an ancient war. For centuries they've been dormant, but recently they've become active again. They're attacking colonies on the rim worlds." "Attacking how?" Commander Stone asked, his military training kicking in. "They consume everything," Radiance of Stars explained. "Ships, stations, even entire planets. They break matter down to its basic components and use it to build more of themselves." "The Federation has been trying to stop them," Ethan continued. "But our response has been slow. We are not used to dealing with threats that require immediate action." Marcus looked at his companions. Stone was already thinking tactically, he could tell. Park was fascinated by the idea of self-replicating machines, and Marcus himself was thinking about what this meant for humanity. "You want our help?" he said. "We would welcome it," Kale admitted. "Your species has experience with warfare that we lack, and your technology, while primitive in some ways, has certain advantages." "What kind of advantages?" Stone asked. "You build things to be tough," Radiance of Stars said. "Most Federation technology is elegant, efficient, but fragile. Your ships are built like weapons, even the civilian ones. Your tactics are aggressive." Marcus felt a mix of pride and shame. Humanity's violent history was both their weakness and their strength. "We'll need to discuss this with Earth," he said finally. "But I think I can speak for my species when I say we want to help." Ethan's crystal body flashed brighter. "Good. The Devourers have been quiet for too long. Our scouts report they're massing near the Kepler Nebula. If they break through there, they could threaten the core worlds." As they left the council chamber, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point. Humanity was about to prove itself to the galaxy. He just hoped they were ready for what that might mean. The stars had never seemed so close, but now Marcus wondered if that was a good thing or not. 3 months had passed since humanity joined the fight against the Devourers. Admiral Jack Kane stood on the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, watching the tactical display with growing frustration. The Federation fleet was moving too slowly again. "Sir, the Vithani command ship is requesting another council meeting," reported his communications officer, Ensign Davis. "They want to discuss strategy for another 4 hours." Kane rubbed his temples. 4 hours. By the time they finished talking, the Devourers would have consumed another colony. He had tried to explain this to the Federation commanders, but they didn't seem to understand the concept of urgency. "Tell them we'll attend, but remind them that people are dying while we debate," Kane said. The human fleet had proven itself in the first few battles. While Federation ships were elegant and powerful, they were designed for exploration and peaceful missions. Human ships built during Earth's Age of Wars were made to fight and survive damage. More importantly, human tactics were unpredictable. Kane remembered the Battle of Proxima Station. The Federation fleet had been arranging itself in perfect formation, following battle plans that were centuries old. Meanwhile, the Devourers had adapted and were flanking them. Kane had broken formation, taking his small squadron of destroyers directly through the enemy line, firing at everything that moved. The Federation commanders had been horrified by his reckless tactics, but it had worked. The Devourers hadn't expected such aggressive behavior and had been caught off guard. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mills from the sensor station, "we're getting a distress signal from the Vithani colony ship Crystal Song. They're under attack near the Omega system." Kane's blood went cold. The Crystal Song carried 40,000 Vithani civilians, families who were being evacuated from a border world. If the Devourers got them. "Where's the nearest Federation fleet?" he asked. 6 hours away at maximum speed," Mills replied. "And us?" 2 hours, sir." Kane didn't hesitate. "Set course for Omega system, maximum speed. Send a message to the Federation fleet. Tell them we're responding to the distress call." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for backup?" asked Commander Stone, who had been assigned to Kane's fleet after the first contact mission. "The Devourers have at least 20 ships in that area. 20 ships against 40,000 civilians," Kane said grimly. "I'll take those odds." The journey to Omega system felt like the longest 2 hours of Kane's life. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, the scene was worse than he had imagined. The Crystal Song was surrounded by Devourer ships, dark, angular machines that were already extending tentacles toward the colony vessel. "They're trying to board," Mills reported. "The Crystal Song's shields are down to 30%. Kane studied the tactical display. His fleet had 12 ships against 20 Devourers. Normally that would be suicide. But Kane had something the Devourers didn't expect: humanity's newest weapon. Dr. Elena Ross had called it the Rift Generator, a device that could create small tears in space-time. It was experimental, dangerous, and completely untested in actual combat. The scientists back on Earth weren't even sure it was safe to use, but 40,000 lives were hanging in the balance. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Kane ordered. "Focus fire on the Devourers closest to the colony ship, and prepare the Rift Generator." "Sir, the weapon isn't ready for field testing," protested Chief Engineer Roberts over the comm. "The power requirements alone could overload our systems." "Then we better make sure it works the first time," Kane replied. The human fleet charged into battle with a ferocity that surprised even Kane. His crews fought like they were defending Earth itself. The Vengeance's railguns tore through Devourer hulls while the destroyer squadrons darted between the enemy ships, firing at point-blank range. But it wasn't enough. For every Devourer they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. And the Crystal Song's shields were failing. "Admiral, the colony ship won't last another 10 minutes, Mills called out. Kane made his decision. "Activate the Rift Generator. Target the center of the Devourer formation." "Sir, the colony ship is too close," Roberts warned. "The spatial distortion could affect them too." "It's their only chance," Kane said. "Do it." The Rift Generator powered up with a sound like reality tearing apart. Space itself seemed to bend around the Vengeance as energy built up in the weapon's core. Kane could feel the ship shaking as the generator drew power from every system. "Firing!" Roberts shouted. What happened next would be talked about for generations, though most of those who witnessed it would try to forget. A ball of twisted space-time erupted from the Vengeance and expanded rapidly. Where it touched the Devourer ships, they simply stopped existing, not destroyed, but erased from reality itself. The effect spread outward like a wave, consuming the entire enemy formation in seconds. But the wave didn't stop there. The edge of the spatial distortion clipped the Crystal Song's quantum matrix, the delicate system that allowed Vithani consciousness to exist in their crystal bodies. Kane watched in horror as the colony ship's lights began to flicker and dim. "Oh no," he whispered. The Crystal Song sent one final message before going dark. "What have you done to us?" Kane's victory had become a disaster. The rift generator had worked perfectly, too perfectly. The spatial distortion had not only destroyed the Devourer fleet, but had also damaged the very thing that kept the Vithani alive. "Get us to that colony ship now," Kane ordered. But it was too late. When the human rescue teams boarded the Crystal Song, they found 40,000 crystal bodies that no longer glowed with life. The Vithani consciousness, which existed as patterns of light and energy within their crystalline forms, had been disrupted by the space-time distortion. They were all dead. Kane stood in the Crystal Song's main corridor, surrounded by the dim crystal forms of what had once been living beings. Children, adults, elders, all victims of his decision to use an untested weapon. "Sir," Commander Stone said quietly, "you saved them from the Devourers." "No," Kane replied, his voice hollow. "I killed them myself." The news spread through the Federation faster than hyperspace travel. The humans had used some kind of superweapon that could erase matter from existence. Worse, they had used it so close to a civilian vessel that it had killed everyone aboard. When Kane tried to explain what had happened to the Federation Council, they listened with growing horror and suspicion. "You deployed an experimental weapon, without authorization," Council member Ethan said, its crystal body dimming with what Kane was learning to recognize as anger. "A weapon that manipulates space-time itself." "We were trying to save lives," Kane protested. "The Devourers would have killed everyone anyway, would they?" asked Radiance of Stars, its golden light flickering. "Or would they have simply consumed the ship? The Vithani consciousness might have survived in backup crystals. Now we will never know." Ambassador Kale looked tired and older than when Kane first met him. "Admiral, we understand that you meant well, but this incident raises serious questions about human weapons and tactics." "What kind of questions?" Kane asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Your species has been at war for most of your recorded history," Ethan said. "You have weapons that can destroy planets, biological agents that can kill entire populations, and now devices that can tear apart reality itself. The Council is concerned." Kane felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying we're not welcome in the Federation?" "We're saying that we need to understand what we're dealing with," Radiance of Stars replied. "Your military technology is far more advanced than we realized, and your willingness to use it is troubling." In the weeks that followed, Kane noticed changes in how the Federation treated human forces. Their ships were no longer invited to joint planning sessions, human officers were excluded from sensitive briefings, and there were always Federation observers aboard human vessels now. The other species whispered when humans walked by. Kane heard fragments of conversations, words like dangerous and unpredictable and weapons of mass destruction. Back on Earth, Dr. Ross was proud of the rift generator's success in combat. "It worked perfectly, Admiral. We can refine the Sci-Fi design, make it more precise." Kane looked at the data from the Crystal Song incident. 40,000 deaths from a weapon meant to save lives. "No," he said finally. "Seal the research. I never want to see that weapon used again." But it was too late. The Federation had already seen what humans were capable of, and in the deepest levels of the Council chambers, 3 species were meeting in secret. The Vithani, still mourning their dead. The Kalari, calculating the threat humanity posed to galactic stability. The Luminari, analyzing human weapons technology, with growing alarm. "They're too dangerous," one of them said. "Their potential for destruction is unlimited," said another. "Something must be done," concluded the third. Admiral Kane never learned about that secret meeting. He was too busy trying to figure out why Federation ships were starting to follow human vessels, always staying just out of sensor range, always watching. The war against the Devourers continued, but now there was a new tension in the galaxy. And at the center of it all was humanity, the species that had come to help, but had instead become something the galaxy feared. The tragedy of the Crystal Song had changed everything. What start? Captain Marcus Vale received the invitation on a Tuesday morning. The message was formal and elegant, written in the flowery language the Federation Council preferred. They wanted to honor humanity's service in the war against the Devourers with a special ceremony at the Kepler Nebula, a fleet review, Vale read aloud to his staff, to celebrate the brave humans who have fought alongside our Federation forces. Commander Stone looked up from his datapad. "Sounds nice, sir. When was the last time anyone threw us a party?" Vale smiled, but something felt wrong. In the 6 months since the Crystal Song incident, relations with the Federation had grown cold. Human ships were watched constantly. Human officers were excluded from important meetings. And now, suddenly, they wanted to throw a celebration? "Sir," Lieutenant Torres said from her station, "Earth Command is ordering all available ships to attend. They're calling it a mandatory show of unity." Vale's unease grew stronger. All available ships? That would leave Earth's defenses very thin. "How many ships are we talking about?" he asked. Torres checked her screen. 500 vessels, sir. Every major warship in the human fleet. 500 ships, nearly the entire Earth Space Navy, all gathering in one place, far from home. "What about the Devourer threat?" Stone asked. "Are we just abandoning the front lines?" "According to this," Torres said, reading from her screen, "the Federation believes the Devourer menace has been contained. They want to honor our contribution before reassigning us to peaceful exploration duties." Vale felt his stomach drop. Peaceful exploration. That was Federation speak for, "We don't want you fighting anymore." 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the Kepler Nebula. It was a beautiful sight. Clouds of gas and dust painted in colors of red, blue, and gold, lit by the stars within. Perfect for a ceremony, Vale thought. Also perfect for an ambush. The human ships arranged themselves in formation as requested. Admiral Kane's flagship, the Vengeance, took the center position. Around it spread destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels, the pride of humanity's space navy. "Sir," Torres called out, "I'm reading a lot of ships on the other side of the nebula. Federation vessels." "How many?" Vale asked. I'm not sure, sir. The nebula is interfering with our sensors, but it looks like thousands." Vale's blood went cold. Thousands? Before Torres could answer, space around them began to shimmer. Ships appeared out of nowhere. Vithani crystal vessels, Kalari hive ships, and Luminari energy cruisers. They were using some kind of cloaking, technology humanity had never seen before. Within minutes, the human fleet was completely surrounded. "This is Admiral Kane to all Federation vessels," came Kane's voice over the comm. "Please explain your positions. Are we under attack?" The response came from Council Member Athan aboard the massive Vithani flagship Eternal Light. Its voice, transmitted across all frequencies, was cold as ice. "Admiral Kane, Captain Vale, officers of the human fleet, you are not under attack. You are under arrest." Vale's bridge fell silent. In the distance, he could see the shapes of Federation ships, more than he had ever seen in one place. There had to be 10,000 of them, maybe more. "Arrest?" Kane's voice crackled with confusion and anger. "On what charges?" "The charges are simple," came another voice, radiance of stars speaking for the Luminari. "Possession of weapons of mass destruction, threat to galactic peace, and the murder of 40,000 Vithani civilians." "That was an accident," Kane protested. "We were trying to save them." "Were you?" This voice belonged to Prime Mind 7, the Kalari representative. Or were you testing your new weapon on a civilian target? Our analysis suggests the latter. Vale couldn't believe what he was hearing. They thought the Crystal Song incident was intentional, that humans had deliberately murdered civilians. You will surrender your vessels immediately, Ethan continued. Your crews will be transported to a secure facility where you will be re-educated. Your weapons will be destroyed and your species will be relocated to a world where you can do no harm. Relocated? Vale found his voice. You mean imprisoned? We prefer the term protected supervision, Prime Mind 7 replied. The galaxy has seen what humans are capable of. Your history of violence, your weapons of mass destruction, your willingness to use them on innocents. You cannot be allowed to threaten the peace we have built. Vale looked at his tactical display. The Federation had positioned their ships perfectly. The humans were trapped in the center of the nebula with no way out. 10,000 ships against 500. It should have been hopeless. But Vale knew something the Federation didn't understand about humans. When trapped, when faced with impossible odds, when given the choice between slavery and death, humans would always choose to fight. Admiral Kane, Vale said into his comm, what are your orders? There was a long pause. Then Kane's voice came back, steady and determined. All ships, this is Admiral Kane. We did not come to this galaxy to be slaves. We came as friends, as allies, as protectors of the innocent. If the Federation wants to treat us as criminals, then they will learn what human criminals can do. Also, ships attack pattern Alpha. Make them remember us. The Battle of Kepler Nebula began with the humans doing something no Federation tactician had ever seen before. Instead of trying to break out of the trap, they attacked inward, ramming themselves deeper into the enemy formation. Vale watched as the destroyer ESS Lightning crashed directly into a Kalari hive ship, its captain choosing to sacrifice his vessel rather than surrender. The explosion took out 3 more Federation ships. Sir, Torres called out. The Admiral is ordering all ships with critical damage to ram the nearest enemy vessel. Vale understood. They couldn't win this battle, but they could make it cost the Federation dearly. Human ships, already damaged by enemy fire, turned themselves into guided missiles crashing into Federation vessels at full speed. The ESS Discovery rammed a Vithani crystal ship, its hull breaking apart as it smashed through the alien vessel's elegant structure. The ESS Courage took out 2 Luminary energy cruisers before being destroyed. The ESS Freedom, its engines failing, crashed into a Federation command ship and detonated its entire weapons magazine. But the Federation had numbers. For every human ship that fought and died, 20 Federation vessels remained. The battle was hopeless from the start. Vale's own ship, the ESS Unity, was taking heavy damage. His shields were down, his weapons were failing, and half his crew was dead or injured, sir, Torres said, blood running down her face from a head wound. Our engines are critical. We won't last much longer. Vale looked at the tactical display. Only a dozen human ships were still fighting. The rest were debris floating in the nebula, their crews dead or captured. Torres, he said quietly. Can you get a message to Earth? I can try, sir. Vale thought about what to say. How do you tell an entire planet that its fleet has been destroyed? How do you warn them that the galaxy they wanted to join was now their enemy? Send this, he said. Earth Command, this is Captain Vale. The Federation has betrayed us. They have destroyed our fleet and plan to invade Earth. Prepare for war. Tell our people that we died fighting for freedom, not for conquest. Tell them to remember us and tell them to make the galaxy remember us too. The message was sent just as a Vithani energy beam tore through the Unity's hull. Vale felt the ship breaking apart around him, felt the air rushing out through the breach. His last thought was of Earth, of his wife and daughter, and of what was coming. Only 12 human ships escaped the trap at Kepler Nebula, 12 ships out of 500. But those 12 carried a message that would change everything. The Federation thought they had won a great victory. They had eliminated the human threat before it could grow larger. They had prevented another species from bringing violence to their peaceful galaxy. What they didn't understand was that they had just declared war on the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. A species that, when pushed to the edge, would push back with everything they had. The survivors who made it back to Earth told their story. They spoke of betrayal, of friends dying in the cold of space, of a galaxy that smiled while preparing a knife for humanity's back. Earth's response was swift and terrible. If the Federation wanted to see what humans were really capable of, they would get their wish. The war that followed would make the Battle of Kepler Nebula look like a small disagreement between neighbors. The Federation had started something they didn't understand. And before it was over, the galaxy itself would weep for what they had unleashed. The age of peace was ending. The age of war had begun, and at the center of it all was humanity. No longer the hopeful species that had dreamed of joining the stars, but something darker, angrier, and far more dangerous. The galaxy had made its choice at Kepler Nebula. Now it would live with the consequences. Dr. Elena Ross had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, her hands shaking from too much coffee, but she couldn't stop working. Outside her laboratory on Luna Base, she could see the construction yards where humanity was building ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Doctor," her assistant Tom called out, "the prototype is ready for testing." Elena looked at the device on the table before her. It was small, no bigger than a briefcase, but it contained enough destructive power to cripple an entire star system. She had called it the silence weapon, though the official military designation was much longer and more boring. "Are you sure about the range calculations?" she asked. "Triple-checked, ma'am. One device can disrupt quantum entanglement networks across a 50-light-year radius. The Federation won't be able to communicate or coordinate their fleets." Elena nodded grimly. Communication was everything in space warfare. Cut that, and even the largest fleet became a collection of isolated ships, easy to pick off one by one. It had been 18 months since Kepler Nebula, 18 months since the Federation had shown their true face. In that time, humanity had transformed from a peaceful species seeking friendship into something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization completely dedicated to war. Every human colony was now a fortress. Every civilian ship had been converted or scrapped for military use. Children as young as 12 were being trained in combat tactics. The entire species had one goal: survival through victory. "Dr. Ross to the bridge," came the announcement over the base's speakers. Priority 1. Elena made her way to the command center where Admiral Lisa Park, the former xenobiologist who had become one of Earth's top military commanders, was studying holographic displays of Federation fleet movements. "Elena, thank you." "God, you're here," Park said. "We just lost contact with the Beijing and the Mumbai. The Federation found our secret base in the Centauri system." Elena felt a chill. Those weren't just ships. They were mobile research facilities, each carrying hundreds of scientists and their families. "Survivors?" "None," Park said quietly. "The Federation isn't taking prisoners anymore. They learned that lesson at Kepler. The war had been brutal from the beginning, but it had grown worse as both sides realized what was at stake. The Federation fought to preserve their peaceful galaxy. Humanity fought for the right to exist." "Show me the tactical situation," Elena said. The holographic display showed the galaxy divided into zones of control. Blue areas belonged to the Federation, still the vast majority of inhabited space. Red areas were human-controlled, a scattered collection of systems connected by hidden supply routes, and between them lay the gray zones, systems too damaged by fighting to support life. "We're losing," Park admitted. "They have the numbers, the resources, the industrial capacity. For every ship we build, they build 10. But we have advantages. They don't," Elena replied, thinking of the weapon designs hidden in her encrypted files. "We fight differently." That was the understatement of the century. Human tactics had evolved far beyond anything the Federation could understand. While they still fought like civilized beings, following rules of engagement that had governed galactic warfare for millennia, humans fought like the survival of their species depended on it. Because it did. Human ships used biological weapons that adapted to multiple alien physiologies. They deployed quantum viruses that could corrupt AI systems from across a star system. They had turned asteroids into guided missiles and space stations into bombs. And now, Elena had created something that would change the war completely. "When do we deploy the silence weapon?" she asked. "Tomorrow," Park replied. "The Federation is massing their fleets for a final push on Earth. They want to end this war quickly, before we can develop anything worse." Elena almost laughed. Worse? They had no idea. The next day, a single human stealth ship slipped through Federation lines and reached the center of their communication network, a massive space station called the Great Voice that coordinated all Federation military activities. The ship never fired a shot. It simply activated the silence weapon and vanished back into hyperspace. Within hours, the effect became clear. Federation fleets across the galaxy found themselves cut off from each other. Commanders who had relied on instant communication for thousands of years were suddenly operating blind. Admiral Kane, now commanding the human resistance from a hidden base in the Outer Rim, launched his counterattack immediately. Human fleets struck at isolated Federation groups using hit-and-run tactics that had been impossible when the enemy could coordinate their response. "It's working," Kane reported to Earth Command. "We've destroyed 3 Federation supply convoys and 2 major battle groups. They can't coordinate their defenses." But the Federation's response was swift and terrible. Council member Athan stood before the emergency session of the Federation Council, its crystal body dim with rage. "The humans have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. They have attacked the very foundation of our civilization, our ability to communicate across the stars." "The situation is worse than you know," added Prime Mind 7. "Our analysis shows that the quantum disruption is spreading. Systems that were not directly affected are now losing communication as well. The humans have created a weapon that attacks the structure of space-time itself." Radiance of stars flickered with dangerous energy. "Then we must respond in kind. No more limited warfare. No more mercy. The humans want to destroy our civilization? Then we will destroy theirs completely." The Federation's retaliation came 3 weeks later. Elena was in her lab when the alarm started screaming. She ran to the observation deck and looked out at Earth, that beautiful blue marble that had been humanity's home for millions of years. The sun was getting brighter. "No," she whispered, understanding immediately what she was seeing. The Federation had done something to Sool, Earth's sun. They had destabilized its nuclear fusion process, turning it into a weapon against the planet it had warmed for billions of years. "All stations, this is Earth Command," came the emergency broadcast. "Solar instability detected. Massive solar flare incoming. All orbital facilities begin immediate evacuation procedures." But it was worse than a solar flare. Elena watched in horror as the sun began to expand, its outer layers becoming unstable. The Federation had turned Earth's own star into a supernova. "How long do we have?" she asked the computer. "Based on current expansion rate, solar explosion will occur in 6 hours, 14 minutes. 6 hours to evacuate a planet of 8 billion people." Elena ran back to her lab, her mind racing. The evacuation ships couldn't carry everyone. Millions would die when the sun exploded. But maybe, just maybe, she could give them something to remember humanity by. She activated her personal computer and began uploading every weapons design, every tactical manual, every piece of military technology that humanity had developed during the war. But she didn't send it to the evacuation fleets. She sent it to the human resistance bases scattered across the galaxy, along with a simple message: make them pay. The destruction of Earth was visible from 1,000 light-years away. The supernova that had once been Sool tore through space, creating a gravitational anomaly that pulled in nearby star systems. The Centauri system was consumed first, then Wolf 359, then Barnard's star. By the time the expanding destruction field finally stabilized, it had consumed 12 star systems and killed over 50 billion beings, human and alien alike. The Federation Council met in emergency session, staring at the readings from their long-range sensors. "What have we done?" whispered Ambassador Kale, his blue-gray skin pale with shock. "We have ended the human threat. Ethan replied, but its crystal body was dim with something that might have been regret. Have we? Prime Mind 7 asked. Our reports show human resistance cells are still active in over 200 systems, and now they have nothing left to lose. Radiance of Stars finished. The war that followed the destruction of Earth was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces, no longer constrained by the need to protect their homeworld, unleashed weapons and tactics that defied every law of civilized warfare. They used viral weapons that could reprogram matter at the molecular level, turning entire planets into toxic wasteland. They deployed quantum mines that could destroy ships by erasing them from multiple dimensions simultaneously. They created artificial black holes and threw them at Federation worlds. Admiral Kane, leading the largest human fleet from his mobile command base, sent a message to every Federation world. You killed our home. You murdered our families. You wanted to see what humans were capable of when we had nothing left to lose. Now you know. This war ends when your species are extinct, or when ours is. There will be no peace. There will be no mercy. There will be no surrender. The galaxy burned, trade routes were cut by quantum minefields. Communication networks remained shattered by silence weapons. Entire sectors fell into chaos as local governments collapsed without central coordination. Species that had been allies for millennia turned on each other, blaming one another for the catastrophe that humanity's extinction had brought upon them all. The Vithani accused the Kolari of pushing too hard for war. The Kolari blamed the Luminari for providing the technology. Zarathel was young, only 23 years old, when she found the crystal. She belonged to a species called the Nexari, who had evolved in the ruins of the old galaxy. Her people had grown up among the dead worlds and broken stars, never knowing what had caused such devastation. The crystal was hidden deep in the ruins of what her archaeology textbooks called Nexus Prime, the ancient capital of some long-forgotten civilization. Most of the massive space station had been destroyed in whatever catastrophe had befallen the galaxy 300 years ago, but small sections still drifted through space, preserved by their own gravity fields. Professor Chen, she called to her supervisor over the comm. I found something in Section 7. It looks like a data storage device. Professor Chen floated over to her position, his environmental suit making soft humming sounds in the vacuum. Careful, Zara. Most of the technology from the old time is too damaged to work properly. But this crystal was different. It was perfectly preserved, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. When Zara touched it with her scanner, holographic text appeared in the air. Words in a language her translation software couldn't recognize. Can you read any of this? She asked. Professor Chen studied the symbols floating before them. Some of it. This appears to be a personal message. The timestamp shows it was recorded during the Final War period. The Final War. That's what historians called the mysterious conflict that had torn the galaxy apart 3 centuries ago. No one knew who had fought it, or why, or even how it had ended. All they knew was that when it was over, most of the galaxy's advanced civilizations had simply vanished. Should we take it back to the university? Zara asked. Definitely. This could be the first intact record from that period we've ever found. Back on New Haven University, the archaeology department's best linguists worked for weeks to decode the crystal's contents. The language was completely unknown, but there were mathematical constants and star charts that helped them understand the basic structure. When they finally broke the code, Professor Chen called Zara to his office immediately. Sit down, he said, his face pale. What we found, it changes everything we thought we knew about the Final War. The crystal contained the personal log of someone named Captain Marcus Vale. The recording was damaged, with large sections corrupted, or missing. But what remained told an incredible story. We came to the stars seeking friends, the recording began. We called ourselves humans, and we thought the galaxy would welcome us. We were wrong. Humans. Zara had never heard of such a species. Neither had any of her professors. The log spoke of a war between these humans and something called the Federation, an alliance of species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. According to the recording, the humans had been betrayed and hunted almost to extinction. They surrounded us at a place called Kepler Nebula. Vale's voice continued. 500 of our ships against 10,000 of theirs. They called us criminals, said we were too dangerous to live free. Most of us died that day, but some escaped to warn Earth. The crystal's data banks contained star charts showing the location of this world, coordinates that matched a dead solar system in what was now called the Forbidden Zone. No one was allowed to travel there because of the massive gravitational anomalies and radiation fields. Professor, Zara said quietly, are you saying the final war was fought between humans and everyone else? Professor Chen nodded. That's what it looks like. And according to this, the humans lost. But the more they studied the crystal, the more questions arose. If the humans had lost the war, why was the entire galaxy still in ruins? Why had all the other species disappeared too? The crystal's final entry, recorded by Captain Vale just before his death, provided some answers. Earth is gone. They turned our sun into a weapon and destroyed our homeworld. Billions of our people are dead. The survivors have scattered across the galaxy, and I fear what they will do now. We were never the monsters the Federation claimed we were, but this war has changed us. We have become something terrible, something that fights without mercy or hope. The galaxy wanted to see what humans were capable of. Now they know. God help us all. 3 months later, Zara was part of a research expedition to the Forbidden Zone. Despite the dangers, the university had to know more about these mysterious humans and what had happened to them. The dead solar system was even worse than the reports suggested. Where planets should have been, there were only asteroid fields of fused glass and metal. The star itself was gone, replaced by a white dwarf surrounded by expanding clouds of plasma that still carried radiation levels lethal to most known life forms. How is this possible? Asked Dr. Martinez, the expedition's physicist. You can't just destroy a star. The energy requirements alone would be beyond anything we understand, Professor Chen finished. But somehow they did it. They found more ruins as they explored the system. Space stations twisted into impossible shapes by gravitational forces, the remains of ships scattered across millions of kilometers, and everywhere the same strange energy signatures that their instruments couldn't identify. But the most disturbing discovery came when they reached the third planet's orbital position. There, floating in space, was a massive structure that defied explanation. It looked like a cross between a space station and a monument, its dark hull covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. I'm reading massive data storage capabilities, reported Dr. Martinez. This thing is like a giant computer. Or a library, Professor Chen said quietly. They docked with the structure carefully, not knowing what they might find inside. The corridors were filled with a strange, breathable atmosphere that their sensors said was safe, but felt wrong somehow. The walls were covered in writing, the same symbols they had seen on Marcus Vale's crystal. In the center of the structure, they found what could only be described as the galaxy's largest archive. Millions of data crystals lined the walls, each one containing records, histories, and personal accounts from the final war. My God, whispered Dr. Martinez. This is everything. Every battle, every casualty, every moment of the war. Zara picked up one of the crystals at random and activated it. A holographic figure appeared, a woman in a military uniform, her face exhausted and scarred. This is Admiral Park, commanding the Human Resistance Fleet, the recording began. We've just received confirmation that the Federation Council has authorized the use of stellar destruction weapons against all human colonies. They're not just trying to defeat us anymore. They're trying to erase us completely. Another crystal showed a different scene. Federation commanders arguing in what looked like a council chamber. One of them, a being made of living crystal, was speaking. The human contamination must be purged completely. Their very existence threatens the natural order. We should have destroyed them when we first detected their violent nature. Crystal after crystal told the same story from different perspectives. The war had started as a misunderstanding, escalated through fear and prejudice, and finally became a campaign of mutual extinction. They were trying to wipe each other out, Zara realized. Not just defeat, complete annihilation. Professor Chen was studying a crystal that contained Federation records. According to this, the war lasted 7 years total. By the end, over 60% of the galaxy's inhabited worlds had been destroyed or abandoned. What happened to the survivors? Dr. Martinez asked. The answer came from one of the final recordings, made by a Federation Council member in the last days of the human resistance has been eliminated. The last of their fleets was destroyed at the Battle of Andromeda Gate. But the cost has been too great. Our civilization is in ruins. Half our member species are extinct. The rest blame each other for this catastrophe. The Federation is dissolving, and we are too few and too scattered to rebuild. But the recording continued. We have made a decision. The memory of this war is too painful, too damaging to the survivors. We will implement the Great Forgetting, a galaxy-wide memory modification that will erase all records of the humans and the war they brought us. Future generations will know only that there was a time of darkness, a plague of madness that swept across the stars. They will not know about the species that called themselves human, or the choices that led us all to destruction. Zara felt cold. They erased their own history? Not just erased, Professor Chen said, reading further. They rewrote it, made it seem like the destruction was caused by some kind of natural disaster or unknown plague. Every database, every record, every memory was altered. Except this place, Dr. Martinez pointed out. Except this place, Professor Chen agreed. Someone built this archive in secret, hidden in the ruins of the human homeworld. Someone wanted the truth to survive. They found the builder's identity in the archive's central core. It was a joint project between the last human survivors and a small group of Federation scientists who had opposed the Great Forgetting. Working together in the final days of the war, they had created this monument to truth. The final message was recorded by someone named Dr. Elena Ross. We were not monsters when we came to the stars. We were explorers, dreamers, beings who wanted to be part of something greater. The research ship Harmony moved slowly through the dark space near the Kepler system. It was not a big ship, but it was peaceful. Its blue and silver hull caught the light from distant stars as it drifted between floating rocks and ice chunks. Commander, Keth stood on the bridge watching the stars through the large window. He was tall, with blue skin that looked almost purple in the ship's soft light. His large, dark eyes could see things that human eyes could not. Like all Altari people, he had long fingers and moved with calm grace. Commander, called Science Officer Nala from her station. She was smaller than Keth, with green skin and silver markings on her face. We are getting strange readings from Sector 7. Keth walked over to look at her screen. Numbers and symbols moved across it in the Altari language. What kind of readings? Energy, sir. But not like anything in our database. It is coming from something very old, very big. Dr. Voss, the ship's chief scientist, heard them talking. He was from a different world with gray skin and 4 arms. 2 of his hands worked on his own computer while the other 2 gestured as he spoke. Could it be a natural phenomenon? These asteroid fields often have unusual energy patterns. No, sir, Nala said, shaking her head. This is artificial. Definitely from a ship, but the energy signature, it does not match any known technology. Keth felt curious. The Altari Federation was always looking for new knowledge. They were explorers and scientists, not warriors. Their ships had shields and basic weapons, but only for protection from space. Debris and small pirates. How far away is it? Keth asked. About 2,000 kilometers, hidden behind the largest asteroid cluster. Take us closer, Keth ordered. But carefully, if it is a derelict ship, we do not want to disturb anything dangerous. The Harmony changed course. Its engines hummed quietly as it moved through the asteroid field. The crew of 23 aliens worked at their stations, all excited about the discovery. They came from 6 different worlds, all part of the peaceful Altari Federation. As they got closer, their sensors began to pick up more details. The object was definitely a ship. but unlike anything they had ever seen. It was huge, almost 3 times the size of the Harmony. Its hull was dark, almost black, with strange markings and scars that looked like battle damage. "Commander." "Pilot," Jax called from the front of the bridge. He was young for an Altari with bright blue skin and eager eyes. "I am getting interference with our navigation systems." "What kind of interference?" "Unknown. The closer we get to that ship, the more our systems act strange." Dr. Voss looked up from his readings. "The energy from that vessel is very powerful. It might be affecting our electronics." Keth nodded. "Reduce speed. Take us to a safe distance where we can scan it properly." But as the Harmony slowed down, something else happened. Their long-range sensors, the ones that watched for danger, began to beep with urgent warnings. "Commander!" Nala shouted, her voice full of fear. "Multiple ships approaching fast. They just came out of hyperspace." On the main screen, dots of light appeared. 1, 2, 5, 10, 23 ships moving toward them at high speed. These ships were different from the ancient derelict. They were newer, with red and black hulls covered in weapons. "Vrak Empire ships," whispered Communications Officer Dex. He was old for his species, with pale skin and shaking hands. "Pirates." Everyone on the bridge felt cold fear. The Vrak were known throughout this part of the galaxy as brutal raiders. They attacked research ships, trading vessels, and even passenger transports. They took what they wanted and destroyed the rest. No one had ever reasoned with them or made peace with them. "Raise shields," Keth ordered, trying to keep his voice calm. "Send a message to Federation Command. Tell them our position and that we are under attack." "Shields up," reported Defense Officer Lynn. She was the only warrior among them, but even she looked worried. "But Commander, our shields are designed for asteroids and cosmic radiation, against Vrak weapons." She did not need to finish. Everyone knew their research ship could not fight 23 pirate vessels. "Incoming message from the Vrak ships," Dex announced. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made several crew members step back in fear. Captain Morrill of the Vrak filled the screen. He was huge, with red skin, sharp teeth, and small, cruel eyes. Scars covered his face and arms. Metal implants stuck out from his skull, and his voice was like grinding rocks. "Altari research vessel," Morrill growled. "You have entered Vrak hunting grounds. Surrender now and we will kill you quickly. Resist and we will take our time." Keth stepped forward, trying to look brave. "Captain, we are peaceful researchers. We mean no harm to anyone. Please let us leave." Morrill laughed, a horrible sound. "Peaceful? Good. That means you will not fight back. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. We want your research data, your technology, and your ship. We do not need." The transmission ended. On the screen, the Vrak ship spread out in attack formation. Their weapons began to glow as they charged up. "Commander," Lynn said quietly, "our weapons cannot hurt ships that size, and there are too many of them." "How long until Federation ships can reach us?" Keth asked. Dex checked his communications panel. "The nearest patrol is 6 hours away, sir." 6 hours. They would all be dead in 6 minutes. Keth looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people, scientists and explorers who had never hurt anyone. They had families waiting for them at home, children who would never see their parents again. "Captain," Jax said suddenly, "what about the old ship? The derelict? What about it? Maybe someone is still alive on it. Maybe they could help." Dr. Voss shook his head. "That ship has been dead for centuries. No life signs at all." "But the energy readings," Nala added. "Something is still working on that ship. Maybe an automated system, maybe a computer that could help us." It was a desperate idea, but desperate times called for desperate actions. "The Vrak ships will be in weapons range in 3 minutes," Lynn reported. Keth made his decision. "Dex, open a channel to the derelict ship. Broadcast on all frequencies. Sir, if no one is alive over there, do it." Dex's hands moved over his controls. "Channel open, sir." Keth took a deep breath. He did not know if anyone could hear him. He did not even know if the old ship's receivers still worked. But he had to try. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Keth of the Altari Federation Research, Ship Harmony. We are under attack by Vrak pirates. 23 ships against 1. We are peaceful researchers with no weapons that can help us. If anyone can hear this message, if anyone is still alive on your ship, please help us. We will all be dead in 2 minutes." He paused, then added, "We have done nothing wrong. We only want to learn and explore. Please, if you have any compassion, any sense of justice, help us survive." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of machines and the beeping of sensors tracking the approaching Vrak ships. 1 minute to weapons range, Lynn announced. Nothing happened. The ancient ship remained dark and silent. Keth closed his eyes. He had tried everything. Now all they could do was wait for the end. 30 seconds, Lynn said. The Vrak ships were so close now that they could see individual weapons ports glowing with deadly energy. Captain Morrell's flagship was the largest, with enough firepower to destroy the Harmony 3 times over. 10 seconds. Keth opened his eyes and looked at his crew one last time. "It has been an honor serving with all of you." But then something impossible happened. Deep inside the ancient derelict ship, lights began to flicker. Systems that had been sleeping for hundreds of years started to wake up. And in the deepest part of that old vessel, something heard Commander Keth's desperate call for help. Something very dangerous was about to wake up. And when it did, the galaxy would remember why some ships were left alone in the dark. Deep inside the ancient ship, something stirred. The vessel had been sleeping for 312 years. Its name was painted on the hull in faded letters. UES Retribution. It was a human warship from the old Earth Defense Fleet, built when humanity thought they were alone in the universe. In the ship's medical bay, 12 metal pods lined the walls. They looked like coffins, but they were actually cryo-sleep chambers. Inside each pod, a human had been sleeping for centuries, kept alive by machines and special chemicals. The ship's computer, called Aria, detected the alien distress signal. Her electronic mind analyzed the transmission in less than a second. Peaceful researchers under attack. Pirates with superior numbers. Innocent lives about to be lost. Aria had been programmed with one simple rule: protect the innocent. Lights began flickering throughout the ship. Power flowed through cables that had been cold for centuries. The massive fusion reactor at the ship's heart began to hum with life. In the first cryopod, Captain Marcus Reed felt warmth returning to his body. The special enhancements in his blood, put there by Earth's military scientists, helped him wake, up faster than a normal human could. Reed's eyes opened. They were gray, like storm clouds, and they held the memory of many battles. He was tall and strong, with short dark hair that had not aged while he slept. The enhancement process had changed. Made him faster and stronger than ordinary humans. "Area," he said, his voice rough from the long sleep. "Status report." The computer's voice came from speakers around the room. It sounded like a calm woman. "Welcome back, Captain. You have been in cryo-sleep for 312 years, 4 months and 16 days. Reed sat up slowly. His enhanced body felt strong, but his mind needed a moment to process what Aria had said. Over 300 years. Everyone he had known on Earth was dead. Everyone. "Why did you wake me?" "Alien distress signal detected. Peaceful research vessel under attack by superior hostile force. Your standing orders were to respond to any call for help from non-combatants." Reed stood up and walked to a window. Outside, he could see the battle beginning. Bright flashes of weapons fire lit up the darkness. The research ship's shields were already flickering under the pirate attack. "Wake the crew," Reed ordered. Around the medical bay, the other cryopods began to open. One by one, Reed's officers and soldiers woke from their long sleep. These were not ordinary humans. Like Reed, they had all volunteered for the enhancement program. They were faster, stronger, and tougher than normal people. Lieutenant Commander Alex Torres was the first to wake after Reed. She was the weapons officer, a small woman with black hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. She had been born for war, and the enhancements had made her even deadlier. "Captain," she said, standing up and saluting. "How long?" "Over 3 centuries, Alex. We missed the whole show." Next came Major Ben Cole, the Marine commander. He was huge, with muscles like steel cables and hands that could crush rocks. His job was to protect the ship and lead boarding parties. Dr. Lisa Park woke up next. She was the ship's doctor and scientist, but also trained in combat. The enhancement process had been her idea originally. She looked young, but her eyes held centuries of knowledge. One by one, the rest of the crew woke up. Pilot Jake Ryan, Engineer Tom Beck, Communications Officer Kate Mills, and the others. 12 humans, all enhanced, all deadly, all dedicated to protecting innocent people. "Aria, show us the tactical situation," Reed ordered. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed the research ship Harmony surrounded by 23 pirate vessels. The pirates were taking their time, enjoying the fear of their victims. "Analysis," Reed said. Aria's voice filled the room with data. "Hostile vessels are from the Vrak Empire, known for extreme brutality and attacks on non-combatants. Research. Vessel is Altari Federation Peaceful Exploration Mission. Altari have no significant weapons." Reed studied the display. The pirates were spread out in a classic attack formation. Their weapons were primitive but effective against unarmored targets. The research ship would be destroyed in minutes. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "those aren't human ships out there." "I noticed. So we're not alone in the universe anymore." Reed looked at his weapons officer. "No, Alex, and it looks like the universe has the same problems we had on Earth. Bullies picking on peaceful people." Dr. Park was looking at her medical scanner. "Captain, the enhancement process worked better than we hoped. Our bodies show no signs of aging. We could live for centuries more." "Good," Reed said. "We might need that time." He turned to face his crew. These men and women had followed him into the enhancement program knowing they might never see Earth again. They had volunteered to sleep until humanity needed them most. "People," Reed said. "We went to sleep defending Earth from an alien invasion. We wake up to find humans are gone, but the universe is full of the same old problems. Pirates attacking researchers, strong picking on weak. Nothing has changed." Major Cole cracked his knuckles. The sound was like breaking wood. "What are your orders, sir?" Reed looked back at the holographic display. The research ship's shields were failing. In moments, innocent people would die while pirates laughed. "We do what we always did," Reed said. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves." He walked to the bridge, his crew following. The Retribution's bridge was built for war. Every station was designed for maximum efficiency in combat. Screens showed weapon status, shield strength, and enemy positions. Reed sat in the captain's chair. It felt good to be back in command. Torres, weapon status. "All systems charging, Captain. Kinetic kill vehicles, antimatter torpedoes, plasma cannons, and particle beams. We have enough firepower to glass a small moon." "Ryan, engines?" "Fusion. Drive online. We can go from 0 to 30% light speed in 40 seconds. Mills, communications?" "All channels open, sir. I can talk to anyone in the system." Reed nodded. The Retribution was designed to fight entire fleets by itself. Against 23 primitive pirate ships, it would be like using a sword to fight children with sticks. But Reed did not feel sorry for the pirates. He had seen what bullies did when no one stopped them. These Vrak had probably killed thousands of innocent people. "Aria, full power to all systems. Bring us out of the asteroid field." "Yes, Captain." The ancient warship began to move. Its engines, silent for centuries, roared back to life. The hull, scarred from old battles, began to gleam as energy flowed through its armor. On the bridge of the research ship Harmony, Commander Keith watched his shields fail. The Vrak weapons were tearing his ship apart piece by piece. His crew was scared, but they stayed at their posts. Commander, Science Officer Nala called out. The derelict ship. It's moving. Keth looked at his screen. The ancient vessel was coming out from behind the asteroids. Lights were turning on all over its hull. It looked like a sleeping giant waking up. Are they responding to our distress call? He asked. I don't know, sir. But that ship, it's big, and it's heading straight for the Vrak fleet. On the Vrak flagship, Captain Morrell was enjoying the terror of his victims, but then his sensor operator, a thin Vrak with nervous eyes, spoke up. Captain, there's another ship approaching. What? Who dares interrupt my hunt? Unknown vessel, sir. Very large. Very old. But, Captain, the energy readings are incredible. Morrell looked at his screen. The ancient ship was moving toward them at steady speed. It did not look like much. Just an old scarred hull with strange markings. Hail them, Morrell ordered. Tell them to leave or be destroyed. But before his communications officer could send the message, the ancient ship sent one first. The voice that came through the speakers was cold and calm. It spoke in a language none of them had ever heard, but their computers translated it automatically. This is Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Fleet vessel Retribution. Vrak pirates, you are attacking peaceful non-combatants. Withdraw immediately or you will be destroyed. Morrell laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. Earth Defense Fleet? I have never heard of such a thing. One old ship against my entire fleet? This human must be insane. He opened a channel, back to the human ship. Unknown vessel. I am Captain Morrell of the Vrak Empire. You are outnumbered 23-1. Leave now, or share the fate of these pathetic researchers. The response came quickly and it made Morrell's blood run cold. Vrak pirates, this is your final warning. Any ship that fires on non-combatants will be destroyed. We are the Earth Defense Fleet. We do not give third warnings. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Reed looked at his crew. They were ready for battle, their enhanced reflexes and training making them perfect warriors. Torres, target the lead Vrak ships. Show them what human weapons can do. With pleasure, Captain. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about humanity, and Captain Morrell was about to discover why some sleeping ships should never be awakened. Commander Keth stepped off the shuttle and into the docking bay of the Retribution. He had expected to see a ship like his own, clean, peaceful, built for exploration. Instead, he found himself in what was clearly a warship. The walls were thick, metal painted in dark gray. Everything looked strong and practical. There were no decorations, no art, no comfortable chairs. This ship was built for one purpose: fighting. Major Cole was waiting for him. The huge human marine stood at attention, his enhanced muscles obvious even under his uniform. Keth, who was tall for an Altari, felt small next to the human soldier. Commander Keth, Cole said politely, welcome aboard the Retribution. Captain Reed is waiting for you on the bridge. As they walked through the corridors, Keth saw more of the ship. Everything was designed for war. He saw weapons lockers, armor, storage, and medical bays built to handle battle injuries. The crew they passed looked dangerous, all enhanced humans with the eyes of experienced fighters. How many crew do you have? Keth asked. 12, Cole replied. We're all that's left. 12? But this ship is enormous. How can 12 people operate it? We're not ordinary people, Commander, and Arya helps us. They reached the bridge, and Keth saw Captain Reed for the first time in person. The human captain was not as big as Major Cole, but there was something about him that made Keth feel nervous. Reed's gray eyes seemed to see everything, and his calm manner suggested someone who had seen many battles. Commander Keith, Reed said, standing up from his captain's chair. Thank you for coming. Please sit down. We have much to discuss. Dr. Park brought them drinks, something called coffee for Reed and water for Keth. The human doctor was small and seemed friendly, but Keth noticed she moved like a fighter too. Captain Reed, Keth began, I must thank you again for saving us. Without your help, we would all be dead. You're welcome, Reed said simply. But I need to understand something. Those Vrak pirates, are they part of a larger force? Keth nodded sadly. Yes, Captain Morrell's ships were just a small raiding party. The main Vrak fleet has over 100 warships. They control this entire sector, attacking anyone who tries to pass through. Reed's expression did not change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. They attack research ships, medical ships, civilian transports? All of them, Keth confirmed. The Vrak see peaceful species as prey. They take our technology, our resources, our people as slaves. No one has ever been able to stop them. Reed was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "How many ships has the Vrak Empire destroyed?" "Thousands," Keth whispered. "Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of innocent people dead." Dr. Park spoke up. "Commander, what about your government? The Altari Federation? Why don't they send warships to protect you?" Keth looked embarrassed. "Doctor, we are a peaceful people. We build research ships and exploration vessels, not warships. Our few defense ships are no match for Vrak raiders. We tried to negotiate with them once. They killed our ambassadors and broadcast the executions across the galaxy as a warning." Reed stood up and walked to the main screen. It showed the wreckage of the Vrak ships floating in space. "Commander, I need you to tell me everything you know about the Vrak Empire. Their bases, their patrol routes, their fleet movements. Everything." "Why, Captain?" Reed turned back to face him. "Because I'm going to destroy them." Keth felt his blood turn cold. "Captain, you cannot be serious. You have one ship, they have hundreds." "I'm perfectly serious," Reed said calmly. "The Vrak Empire ends today." Major Cole smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "Commander Kith, you don't understand what humans are capable of." Reed called up a holographic display showing the local star systems. "Area, show us the Vrak patrol patterns based on the data from their ship's computers." The AI's voice filled the bridge. "Analysis complete, Captain. The Vrak have been conducting systematic raids throughout this sector for 8 years. They follow predictable patterns, hitting trade routes and research stations on a regular schedule." Red dots appeared on the display showing Vrak attacks. There were hundreds of them. "They're not just random pirates," Reed said, studying the patterns. "This is organized genocide. They're systematically wiping out peaceful species in this sector." Dr. Park was looking at the data with growing anger. "Captain, look at this. They're targeting medical ships, refugee transports, even school ships carrying children." Reed's calm expression finally changed. A muscle in his jaw twitched, and his hands clenched into fists. "Show me their main base." "Here," Arya said, highlighting a star system 40 light-years away. "The Vrak home system. Over 60 ships stationed there, plus orbital weapons platforms and shield generators. And their patrol fleets, scattered throughout the sector. Usually 3 to 5 ships per group, visiting each system every few weeks to collect tribute and hunt for easy targets." Reed was silent for a long moment, processing the information. Then he made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. "Torres," he called to his weapons officer. "Plot intercept courses for all Vrak patrol groups. We're going hunting." "Yes, sir," Torres replied with obvious satisfaction. Keth jumped up from his chair. "Captain, please listen to me. You cannot fight the entire Vrak Empire alone. They will send everything they have against you." Reed looked at the Altari commander with something that might have been sympathy. "Commander, you come from a peaceful species. You don't understand how predators think. The Vrak will keep killing innocent people until someone makes them stop. Permanently. But one ship against 100 has better odds than you might think," Reed finished. "You've seen what our weapons can do. The Vrak technology is centuries behind ours. More importantly, they're bullies. And bullies always make the same mistake." "What mistake?" "They think everyone else is as weak as their usual victims." Reed turned to his crew. "People, we have a mission. There are Vrak patrol groups terrorizing innocent civilians throughout this sector. We're going to eliminate them all." "Sir," Pilot Ryan spoke up. "What about their main fleet?" "We'll deal with them after we clean up their patrol groups. First rule of warfare, never fight the enemy where they're strongest. We make them come to us." Commander Keth realized the humans were completely serious. "Captain Reed, even if you could destroy their patrols, the main Vrak fleet will hunt you down. They have ships you haven't seen yet. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, ships bigger than this one. Reed smiled, and for the first time it was a warm expression. Commander, you're worried about us. That's kind of you. But you don't need to be afraid for humans. You need to be afraid for anyone who threatens innocent people in our presence. Dr. Park brought up another display. Captain, I've been analyzing the Vrak communications we intercepted. They're planning a major raid next week, a convoy of refugee ships fleeing from some war in the outer systems. How many refugees? 50,000, sir. Mostly families with children. Reed's expression went cold again. When and where? The Kepler Junction, in 6 days. The refugees will be in slow transport ships with no weapons. And the Vrak? 15 warships, sir. They're planning to take the refugees as slaves and sell them in the outer rim markets. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Reed spoke, his voice like ice. Change of plans. We deal with that convoy attack first. Then we start hunting down the patrol groups. Sir, Torres said, with respect, shouldn't we start with the smaller targets? 15 ships is a lot, even for us. Reed shook his head. Alex, there are 50,000 innocent people on those refugee ships. Families, children. If we spend time hunting patrol groups first, those people will be dead or enslaved by the time we get to them. Major Cole nodded in agreement. The captain's right. We save the refugees first. Reed turned back to Commander Keth. Commander, I'm going to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. Will your government object if we destroy Vrak ships? Keth thought for a moment. Captain, my government has been trying to find a way to stop the Vrak for years. If you can actually do it, I think they would be grateful, not upset. Good. Because after we save those refugees, we're going to send a message to every predator species in the galaxy. The message is simple. Peaceful people are under human protection now. Reed stood up and looked at his crew. People prepare. For combat operations. We have 6 days to get to the Kepler Junction. Plot a course that keeps us hidden from Vrak sensors. Course plotted, sir, Ryan reported. Engineering. I want all systems at peak efficiency. This is going to be our first real test. All systems green, Captain. Engineer Beck called from his station. Reed turned back to Keth. Commander, you're welcome to stay aboard and observe, or we can take you back to your ship if you prefer. Keth thought about it. Part of him wanted to run back to the safety of his research vessel, but another part of him wanted to see what these dangerous humans could really do. I'll stay, Captain. Someone should witness this. Good man, Reed said with approval. As the Retribution began to move toward the Kepler Junction, Commander Keth realized he was about to see something that would become legend throughout the galaxy. The humans were going to war against an entire empire. And somehow, Keth believed they might actually win. In 6 days, the Vrak would learn what happened when you threatened innocent people in front of humans. It would be the last mistake many of them ever made. Captain Morrill stared at his main screen, watching the ancient human ship approach. He had raided this sector for 10 years, destroying hundreds of ships and killing thousands of aliens. No one had ever challenged him before. Captain, his weapons, officer said nervously. That ship is not showing up properly on our sensors. The energy readings are strange. Strange how? Higher than anything in our database, sir. Much higher. Morrill waved his hand dismissively. Old sensors, probably. Broken. Look at that rust bucket. It's been floating dead in space for centuries. One ship against 23, the human captain is either brave or stupid. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Reed watched the tactical display. The Vrak ships were moving into attack formation, their weapons charging. Behind them, the research ship Harmony was barely holding together, its shields flickering weakly. Captain, Torres said from the weapons station, I have locks on all 23 hostile vessels. Recommend we eliminate the immediate threats first, then deal with the rest. Reed nodded. Dr. Park, what do we know about these Vrak? The ships. Doctor and scientist checked her readings. Arya has been analyzing their communications, sir. The Vrak Empire appears to be a brutal military society. They attack peaceful ships, take slaves, and destroy anything they cannot use. No record of them ever showing mercy. And the research ship? Altari Federation. Peaceful explorers and scientists. No significant weapons. They've never hurt anyone. Reed's gray eyes grew colder. In his long military career, he had seen many bullies. The Vrak were just another type of predator picking on innocent people. Mills, open a channel to the research ship. Channel open, sir. Reed's voice was calm and steady. Research vessel Harmony. This is Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Fleet. Maintain your current position and prepare to receive aid. Do not be afraid. On the bridge of the Harmony, Commander Keth felt a spark of hope. The human captain's voice was confident and strong. Maybe somehow they would survive this day. Thank you, Captain Reed, Keth replied. We are grateful for any help you can provide. Reed then opened a channel to the Vrak fleet. When he spoke, his voice was like cold steel. Vrak pirates, this is your final warning. You have attacked peaceful non-combatants. Withdraw from this system immediately, or you will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to decide. Captain Morrell's face turned darker red with anger. Human, you dare threaten the mighty Vrak Empire? We have conquered 12 star systems. We have destroyed 1,000 ships. What can one ancient vessel do against us? You'll find out, Reed said quietly and closed the channel. He turned to Torres. Alex, select your targets. Make it clean and fast. Torres smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator about to strike. 8 ships, Captain. The ones closest to the research vessel. I'll use kinetic kill vehicles. No explosions, no debris to harm the Harmony. Fire when ready. Firing now. The Retribution had been built using technology far beyond anything the current galaxy had seen. Its kinetic kill vehicles were simple. In concept, metal rods accelerated to 30% of light speed. They carried no explosives because they did not need any. At that velocity, a small piece of metal had the impact force of a nuclear bomb. 8 projectiles launched from the human warship. They were invisible to the naked eye, too fast and too small for most sensors to track. The Vrak ships never saw them coming. The first kinetic round hit Captain Morrell's second-in-command ship. The metal rod punched through the hull like it was made of paper. The ship's reactor exploded instantly, turning the vessel into a ball of fire and debris. The second ship died just as quickly. Then the third, the fourth, the fifth. In less than 10 seconds, 8 Vrak warships were destroyed. The remaining pirates stared in shock at the expanding clouds of wreckage that had been their comrades. Impossible, whispered Morrell. No weapon can move that fast. His sensor operator was shaking with fear. Captain, I tracked the projectiles. They were moving at 90,000 kilometers per second. That's 30% light speed. That's impossible. No one has that technology. On the Retribution, Torres was already selecting new targets. Next, 8 ships locked, Captain, ready to fire. But Reed held up his hand. Wait, let's see if they're smart enough to run. He opened the channel to the remaining Vrak ships. Vrak pirates, you have just seen a demonstration of human military technology. 8 of your ships are gone. You still have 15 left. You can join your dead friends, or you can leave this system and never come back. Choose now. Captain Morrell's bridge was in chaos. His officers were shouting in fear, begging him to retreat, but Morrell's pride would not let him run from one ship, even if that ship had just destroyed 8 of his vessels in seconds. All ships, attack the human vessel, he roared. Full weapons power, destroy them. The remaining 15 Vrak ships opened fire together. Plasma cannons, energy beams, and missile launchers all targeted the Retribution. The space around the human ship lit up with deadly energy. On the research ship Harmony, Commander Keth watched in horror. No ship can survive that. Much firepower, he whispered, but when the light faded, the Retribution was still there. Its shields had absorbed the entire attack without even flickering. The human ship looked completely undamaged. Well, Reed said calmly, I guess they chose death. He turned to Torres. Alex, finish them. With pleasure, sir. What happened next was not a battle. It was an execution. The Retribution had been designed to fight entire enemy fleets alone. Its weapon systems were built for maximum efficiency and devastating effect. Torres did not just destroy the wrack ships. She dismantled them with surgical precision. Antimatter torpedoes launched from the human warship, each one guided by advanced computers that could calculate trajectories faster than any living mind. The torpedoes did not just hit their targets. They struck the exact spots that would cause maximum damage. One torpedo hit a wrack ship's engine section. The antimatter explosion tore the vessel in half. Another torpedo struck a weapons magazine, causing a chain reaction that destroyed 2 ships at once. Particle beams lanced out from the Retribution, cutting through wrack hulls like hot knives through butter. The beams were so precisely controlled that they could slice a ship into pieces without damaging anything nearby. Captain Morrill watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship exploded or simply came apart under the human weapons. His officers were screaming. His bridge was on fire and his mighty fleet was being destroyed by a single enemy vessel. "Captain," his pilot shouted, "we have to run. We have to get out of here." But it was too late. A kinetic round punched through Morrill's flagship, destroying the engine room. The ship began to spin helplessly, its power failing. Reed's voice came over the communications system one last time. "Captain Morrill of the Vrak Empire, your ship is disabled. Your fleet is destroyed. You have one choice left. Surrender or die." Morrill looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead, and the other half was wounded. His proud warship was a broken wreck drifting in space. I surrender," he whispered. "Louder," Reed said coldly. "I surrender," Morrill screamed. "Good. Power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will result in your immediate destruction." The battle was over. In less than 5 minutes, the human warship had destroyed 22 wrack ships and disabled the last one. The research vessel Harmony was safe. On the bridge of the Harmony, Commander Keth and his crew stared in amazement. They had never seen anything like the power the human ship had displayed. The weapons, the shields, the precision. It was beyond their understanding. "Commander," Science Officer Nala said quietly, "what kind of beings are these humans?" Keth shook his head. "I don't know, but I'm glad they're on our side." Dr. Voss was studying his sensor readings. "Commander, the energy output from that human ship is incredible. Their technology is centuries ahead of anything we've seen, maybe thousands of years ahead." Reed's voice came over their communications again. "Research Vessel Harmony, this is Captain Reed. Are you all right? Do you need medical assistance?" "We're fine, Captain Reed," Keth replied. "Thanks to you, we cannot thank you enough. You saved all our lives." "Just doing our job, Commander. But I need to ask, are there more wrack ships in this area?" "Yes, sir. This was just a raiding party. The main wrack fleet has over 100 ships." Reed was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I see. Commander Keth, would you be willing to come aboard my ship? I think we need to talk about the current state of the galaxy." Keth looked at his crew. They were all scared but also curious. These humans had just saved their lives. Maybe they could be trusted. "Yes, Captain Reed, I'll come aboard." As the Harmony moved closer to the Retribution, Keth wondered what he would find on the human ship. What kind of people could build such devastating weapons? What kind of society produced warriors like Captain Reed? He was about to find out. And what he learned would change everything he thought he knew about war, peace, and the nature of justice in the galaxy. The Vrak had learned a hard lesson today. There was a new power in the galaxy, and it did not tolerate bullies. The age of human guardianship was about to begin. 6 days later, the Retribution arrived at the Kepler Junction. The area was a natural meeting point for trade routes, with 3 jump gates connecting different star systems. It was also the perfect place for an ambush. Captain Reed stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display. The refugee convoy was already there, 12 large transport ships moving slowly through space. Each ship carried over 4,000 refugees fleeing from wars in the outer systems. "Area, scan the transports," Reed ordered. "Scanning complete, Captain." 48,732 life forms detected, mostly civilians, families, elderly, children. Medical readings show signs of malnutrition and exhaustion. Dr. Park looked sad as she read the reports. "Captain, these people have been running for months. Their ships are old and barely holding together. They have almost no food left." Commander Keth, who had stayed aboard the human ship, pointed to the display. "There, Captain. The Vrak ships are coming." 15 Vrak warships dropped out of hyperspace, right on schedule. They moved into attack formation around the helpless refugee convoy. The transport ships had no weapons and shields too weak to stop a single Vrak torpedo. On the lead Vrak ship, Admiral Voss watched the convoy with satisfaction. He was even larger than Captain Morrell had been, with metal claws grafted onto his hands, and cruel red eyes that glowed in the dark. "Signal the transports," he ordered. "Tell them to surrender or we start destroying ships." His communications officer sent the message. The reply came from the convoy leader, an old alien with a tired voice. "Please, Admiral Voss, these are just refugees. We have nothing of value. Just families trying to find safety." Voss laughed, a horrible sound. "You have something very valuable, old fool. You have people. Healthy slaves sell for good money in the rim markets. Surrender now and we will kill only half of you as an example. Resist and we kill everyone except the strongest workers." The convoy leader's voice cracked with despair. We surrender. Please don't hurt the children." "Too late for that," Voss said coldly. "We always hurt the children first. It keeps the adults obedient." But before Voss could give the order to board the transports, his sensor operator shouted a warning. "Admiral, ship decloaking off our starboard side." The Retribution appeared like a ghost materializing from nothing. Its stealth systems had kept it completely hidden until Captain Reed chose to reveal himself. Reed's voice came over all communication channels, Vrak and refugee ships alike. "Vrak warships, this is Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are attacking defenseless civilians. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Voss stared at the human ship on his screen. It looked familiar somehow. Then he remembered the reports from Captain Morrell's failed raid. Only one ship had survived that disaster, and it had brought stories of a mysterious human vessel with impossible weapons. "So," Voss said slowly, "you are the human who destroyed Morrell's fleet." "I am. And I'm the human who's about to destroy yours if you don't leave those refugees alone." Voss felt a cold fear in his stomach, but his pride would not let him back down. In front of his crew. "Human, you are outnumbered 15 to 1. My ships are larger and more powerful than Morrell's raiders. Leave now, or share his fate." Reed's response was calm and final. "Admiral Voss, I'll give you one more chance. Turn your ships around and leave this system. Never attack civilians again. This is your only warning. And if I refuse, then you and every ship in your fleet will die in the next 5 minutes." Voss's anger overcame his fear. "Attack. All ships destroy the human vessel." The 15 Vrak warships opened fire together. Their combined firepower was massive, enough to destroy a small moon. Plasma cannons, energy beams, and missile launchers all targeted the Retribution. On the refugee ships, people watched in terror as the space around the human vessel lit up with deadly energy. Surely no ship could survive such an attack. But when the light faded, the Retribution was still there, completely undamaged. "Impressive," Reed said over the comm. "Now let me show you what real weapons look like." What happened next made the first battle with Morrell's pirates look like a training exercise. The Retribution did not just destroy the Vrak ships, it dismantled them with surgical precision. Torres had spent 6 days studying Vrak ship designs and planning the perfect attack. Antimatter. Torpedoes launched from the human warship, but these were different from the ones used before. These torpedoes split apart as they approached their targets, becoming dozens of smaller warheads that struck multiple points on each ship simultaneously. One Vrak cruiser tried to turn and run. 3 kinetic rounds hit its engines, weapons, and bridge in perfect sequence. The ship was disabled but not destroyed, its crew trapped and helpless. Another ship attempted to ram the Retribution. A particle beam sliced it cleanly in half, the two pieces spinning away into space. Admiral Voss watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship exploded or simply came apart under the human weapons. The Retribution moved through space like a predator among prey, its weapons striking with deadly accuracy. "Impossible," Voss whispered. "No one has this kind of power." His flagship shuddered as kinetic rounds destroyed its weapon systems. More rounds took out the engines, then the shields. In seconds, his mighty warship was a helpless wreck. Reed's voice filled the bridge. "Admiral Voss, your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is disabled. Surrender now and I might let some of your crew live." Voss looked around his ruined bridge. 14 ships destroyed in less than 4 minutes, his own ship crippled and helpless. The human had done exactly what he promised. I surrender," Voss said quietly. "Signal all surviving wrack vessels to surrender immediately," Reed ordered. "Any ship that tries to escape will be destroyed." The few remaining wrack ships, their captains terrified by what they had witnessed, quickly surrendered. Reed opened a channel to the refugee convoy. "Transport ships, this is Captain Reed. You are safe now. The wrack threat has been eliminated." The old convoy leader's voice was filled with tears of relief. "Captain Reed, thank you for saving us. How can we ever repay you?" "No payment necessary," Reed replied. "Just get your people to safety." But Reed was not finished. He opened a channel to Admiral Voss's ship. "Admiral, I want you to send a message to every wrack ship in the galaxy. Tell them what happened here today. Tell them that humans are now protecting civilian ships in this sector. Any wrack vessel that attacks non-combatants will be hunted down and destroyed. And if I refuse, then I'll broadcast the message myself, along with footage of your fleet being destroyed. Your choice." Voss, broken and defeated, agreed to send the message. Over the next 3 months, the Retribution hunted down every wrack patrol group in the sector. One by one, they were found and eliminated. The few that surrendered were allowed to leave with a warning: never return, never attack civilians again. The main wrack fleet, over 100 ships strong, came looking for the mysterious human vessel. They found the Retribution waiting for them in an asteroid field, using the rocks as cover and weapons. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. Reed and his crew fought with the cold efficiency of enhanced humans who had been born for war. They used the asteroids as kinetic weapons, launching them at wrack ships with precise calculations. They laid antimatter mines in the enemy's path. They struck from multiple directions at once, their ship appearing and disappearing like a ghost. When it was over, the wrack empire was finished. Their home fleet was destroyed, their patrol groups eliminated, their ability to threaten anyone else permanently ended. Word spread throughout the galaxy about the mysterious human ship and its deadly crew. Other predator species heard the stories and decided to find easier hunting grounds. Pirates and raiders began avoiding the sectors where the Retribution was known to patrol. Commander Keth returned to the Altari Federation with an incredible story. He told his government about the humans, about their power, and about their mission to protect peaceful species. The Federation Council voted unanimously to establish formal relations with Captain Reed and his crew. They offered supplies, information, and friendship to the humans who had saved so many innocent lives. But Reed declined most of their offers. The Retribution needed little from others. Its technology was far beyond anything the galaxy possessed. Instead, Reed made a simple request. He wanted the Federation to establish a communication network, a way for peaceful ships throughout the galaxy to call for help when they were in danger. "Any distress signal from a civilian vessel will be answered," Reed promised. "No matter where it comes from, no matter how far we have to travel, the innocent will never face predators alone again." The network was built within a year. It became known as the Guardian Channel, and its simple message was broadcast on every peaceful ship in the galaxy. "If you are in danger, call for help. Someone will answer." Captain Reed established a base in the asteroid field where they had first awakened. The Retribution could dock there for repairs and resupply, but it was always ready to respond to calls for help. The ship's crew, enhanced humans who could live for centuries, became legends throughout the galaxy. Stories were told of the sleeping, angels of death who woke only to protect the innocent. Children on a dozen worlds grew up hearing tales of Captain Reed and his warriors, but Reed himself remained focused on his mission.